Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I think we start now. Are there still people in the lobby, or should we start?
Yes, you can start, Bella.
Okay.
We should start.
Yes, okay. So, good morning, everybody. Good morning. I'm greeting you from Germany. It's morning here, and greetings to everyone wherever in the world you are, our colleagues in Asia, our colleagues in Africa, wherever you are, or I think many of you coming from India. So, welcome to this session. This is a working group meeting, and we are going to take a bit stock to see what is the situation currently with the opening of schools and the very important aspect of WASH in schools when it comes to safe reopening and safe operation of schools. We're going to, in this working group meeting, we're presenting a few initiatives which currently are running and which are currently ongoing, but we're also very, very keen to hear from your end what is currently ongoing. My name is Bella Monze. I work with GIZ on WASH in Schools since many years. I'm a member of the Fit for School team and also a member of the Sustainable Sanitation program in GIZ at headquarters. And I'm very happy to see many faces here, and I look forward to hear from get certain inputs, and also most important, hear from you what are the initiatives in your country, and also specifically what kind of input would you like to give to this working group 7 of Susanna. I will give the word to our moderator. Our moderator is Lucie Leclerc, and happy to turn over to Lucie.
Hi everyone. Very nice to see actually quite many people who are attending this meeting now. We are 38 in total right now. I will be your moderator today. So my name is Lucie Leclerc. I work as a consultant. I'm supporting the WINS network, Bella and the colleagues. I'm also a WASH consultant working also for the Swiss Water and Sanitation Consortium as regional advisor. Some of you might know me from there. Very happy to be your facilitator today. So as Bella said, this is a working group meeting. It's quite informal. We are not here to just present. We are also here to know from you what you're doing, to have discussions. I see that some of you have already started to introduce themselves. Before we do this, maybe let us agree on a few rules for today. I'm trying to share my screen here. So we propose to keep the video and the microphone off as long as you don't present. But once you're presenting, it's always nice to have the video on so that we have someone to look at and microphone off. So that's a basic function we've set now. So it's normal that you're muted when you come in. When it comes to question, 40 people is just on the limit to have oral questions. So we would like to suggest to use the chat box for questions. We'll be monitoring them. In case you feel that we didn't respond to your question, please put it again on the chat box. And if needed, we might ask you to just open your mic and then explain a bit further your questions. There will be time for question after each presentation. And as you have seen from the program towards the end, then we will also ask you to share some input, some thoughts, and then we'll discuss. There will be no break during this meeting. So just that you manage, just organize yourself. And this session will be entirely recorded. So it's now compulsory to mention this at any meetings. In case this is an issue for you, unfortunately, you might want to leave then. So those are just the basic rules for today's session. I will not expand more than this. Now coming back to the introduction, it would be great if you could write in the chat box your name, your organization and the type of organization. That's always good for us to know the type of organization, if you come from government side or NGO or private sector or UN, any other organization, type of organization. When you're based, that's also interesting to know the representation, Africa, or like the country, that can be nice. And also we'll be curious to hear if you can write this just shortly, if it's your first time to attend such meetings. Okay. Moving to the agenda, Bella already explained a little bit how it's going to go. So we are going to have 3 different presentations. The first one will be on the WASH in Schools network, some updates on what has been happening on that front, so that you also have an overview of what is this network about, what is it doing, the type of activities. There will be also time for questions here. We'll have afterwards a presentation on the Fit for School and particularly the Africa Initiative. Then afterwards, a presentation on the Hygiene and Behavior Change Coalition on support for safe reopening of schools. Also time for question after there. And then afterwards, we'll take some time to get input from you and to discuss on the topic of today's meeting, which is safe school reopening. As you know, this working group normally doesn't only focus on schools, it's WASH in institutions. So if you have any interesting initiatives also linked to maybe COVID-19 response in WASH in healthcare facilities or in other institutions, they are also welcome here. We'll be interested to hear them. Maybe just to remind you, you should have received an email with a small teaser in it. So basically what we had asked you to prepare in case you wanted to share something is maybe a few photos or videos or stories of successful work that you've seen being done in your projects. And then after there are some questions for discussion that we've shared. So the form of coordination in place in your country and region related to safe reopening of schools, or what else do you feel is needed to ensure safe reopening of schools? But those were just teasers, those were just initial ideas to kickstart the discussion after the different presentation. So let me stop sharing my screen now. How do I do that? Sorry for that.
Press the X.
It's the X just beside the leave.
The one with the arrow.
Just
It's
next
the
to the
button
red
right next to
sleeve
leave.
is a cross.
Ah, yes.
Click on
Okay,
that cross.
sorry. I'm very sorry for this. Yes. So on this, then I will call for the first presentation, unless you already have some questions. So Cherry, please, can you also start sharing your screen, and then we'll kickstart with the WASH in School landscape and a presentation on the WASH in Schools network.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Lucy. And hello, everyone. My name is Sheridyn Miguel. I am from GIZ. And I will be presenting about the Global WINS Network and updates in the WASH in School landscape. So I work for the Global WINS Network Secretariat as well. All right. Just to give a background about the WINS Network, the WINS Network is a global interagency network working towards improving WASH services in schools around the world. The network started in 2010, and they've worked on its first publication, which is Raising Clean Hands. It's actually a call to action for WASH in schools. Now, everybody can actually engage in WINS networks, anyone from the government institutions, development agencies, United Nations, academia, private sectors. So if you're actually interested, you can also send us an email, a communication for that. All right. Now, the WINS network envisions all schools to have access to basic drinking water, single-sex basic sanitation facilities, and basic hand washing facilities. With that, the network aims to foster community of practice and facilitate the integration and alignment of WINS programs in order to achieve the SDG targets. Okay. Now, in order to achieve, of course, the objective, the WINS network identified 6 key action areas to which, if any one of you are interested, you can actually join and contribute as well. So the first one, we have the multi-level advocacy, policy support, and system strengthening. This is to increase profile of WINS and also to facilitate supportive policy environment. Then we also have improving WINS monitoring and reporting and supporting alignment with the SDG core indicators. We also aim to provide data analysis and recommendations to strengthen national WINS monitoring concepts as part of education sector monitoring. The third one, we also have research and evidence building to strengthen WINS programming. This includes evidence and economic, health, and educational benefits of WINS programming. Then, of course, we have the fourth one, ensuring mainstreaming of gender inclusion and equity principles, including menstrual hygiene and health strategy. Fifth, we have developing and reviewing guidance on WINS programming, which includes innovative solution to common WINS service implementation challenges. And lastly, of course, we have the knowledge management, capacity development, and learning exchange. Given the pandemic, since last year, the network was able to produce 4 key products that can be key knowledge products that can be used as reference materials for those who are, especially for those who are working on safe school reopening. Some of the knowledge products are actually available in other languages. Now, the first one we have here, our knowledge map. This is actually a compilation of relevant materials about COVID-19 from high quality, reliable resources, which can be used by the learners, their families, and the education system as a whole. And then we also have the 10 immediate WINS actions. This is actually proposed action points for safe school reopening, and this includes hand washing, water availability, supplies, cleaning and disinfecting, waste management, physical distancing, establishing monitoring teams, orientation and training, checklist, and then hygiene and culture. Our third product is the environmental nudges. This knowledge product contains an overview of the science behind the nudge-based hand washing interventions, and it also has resources and tools for planning and implementing nudge-based interventions in schools. And lastly, we also have our checklist that helps in managing the COVID-19 responses for safe school reopening. So we have 3 checklists: the school entrance checklist, classroom checklist, and then the toilets and facilities checklist. Now, all the information about the WINS network as well as our products can be found in the website, which is winsnetwork.org. Now, aside from that, the WINS network, our website also contains key global resources that you can actually check in your free time, as well as past and upcoming events for the WINS network and or for the WashIn schools. Now, speaking of upcoming events, we have 4 events lined up for the succeeding months. First is on September, we will have our webinar on stock taking on school reopening. This is actually a 2-hour online event participated by Ministries of Education and Ministries of Health from Asia Pacific countries. The general objective of this event is for to get updates on what is happening on the ground in terms of school reopening. Then we also have a session for UNC. This is a lunch session that's happening on October 5 for the 2021 Water and Health Conference. And the session is about updates and lessons on improving WASH services to support school reopening during COVID-19. Now, on November, we will have our 9th WINS International Learning Exchange. This is a 3-day virtual event from November 16 to 18. Participants will come from 17 countries in South Asia, East Asia, and Pacific regions. The objectives of this event includes updating on WINS progress in each participating countries and sharing of lessons learned and experiences in responding and recovering from the pandemic. Of course, sometime November also, we will have a partners meeting, which will allow or which would give an opportunity for the network's partners in playing an active role in defining the future actions of the network. And happening next week, just for promotion, is the World Water Week. Fit for School will be presenting 2 sessions. First is the cleanliness at your finger, which is happening on August 24. And then we'll have the other one, approaching One Health through water sanitation and hygiene in schools, which is happening on August 26. To those who are interested, kindly just check the website, www.worldwaterweek.org. All right. Just another invitation. The Hand Hygiene for All is also developing a hand hygiene research agenda in schools. So to those who are interested, you can actually join the Zoom discussion this coming August 24 and September 2nd. This is led by the Emory University, and this is in collaboration with UNICEF and World Health Organization. Now, to those who are interested, you can just contact Jed Snyder. I will also put his email address in the chat box, so you can actually send him an inquiry. And of course, for us, if you also want to know more about us, or if you have questions or anything, just email us at winsnetwork@giz.de. Okay, I think that's it for me. Thank you so much. And I give back the floor to Lucy.
Thank you very much, Cherry. That was a good teaser on the WINS network, different activities that were done, a lot of things in the planning. That sounds good. Now we give the floor to the participants. Please, this is a very informal session, so don't hesitate to ask any question to Cherry, or if you need clarification on anything, or if you want to better understand how you can engage, please write down your question on the chat box. Or if there are not many questions, you can also just unmute yourself and then ask your question directly to Cherry.
Perhaps in addition, hi, this is Bella. Briefly, just in addition, the WINS network is perhaps a bit in difference. The WINS network is currently much done, or the work has been done a lot in Asia, and it would be very good to hear more from Africa. So it would specifically Southeast Asia. So there's a lot running in Southeast Asia. Also this international learning exchange, where perhaps some of you have heard about, and it would be great to hear really more from Africa. So and it would be great to invite practitioners from Africa to contribute to the work of the Wash in Schools network. Thank you. And I see there is already somebody raising the hand. Thanks.
Thank you, Bella. Indeed, I see Duru Nicodemus. Maybe you have a question, you want to just unmute yourself maybe and ask it.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah, very well. Just go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, I'm at the introduction. I'm from Nigeria, and I'm the Director General of So Others May Eat Foundation, a non-for-profit organization that caters for the needs of the poor and the needy, through the underserved. And one of our areas of operation is in the wash sector in Nigeria. And from what WINS, we're actually following the works of WINS network. And we think that the work being done so far is highly commendable. Now, from all our findings, just like you also indicated, everything done is mostly in Asia and South Africa. So we want to know how we in Africa, particularly those of us in Nigeria, who are also trying to see what we can do to ameliorate this wash situation in our schools, in our public places like our markets, our motor parks, and communities too. how can we participate in with the WINS network, you know, to actually touch lives? Thank you.
Good, thank you. Bella, do you want to answer, or Cherry?
Yeah, perhaps a brief. Thank you very much for your input. And this is very much known. And I think you highlight this again, that there is a lot also on the WINS, on all these WINS websites, you find a lot about movements in Southeast Asia, not so much about Africa. Even there's so much ongoing in Africa. I think it would be great to integrate that more. And I think that leads nicely to the next presentation. And perhaps we have a little bit more time then afterwards to just collect. And I think it's far more about using platforms, bring up the work you have, and also let's see can we learn from each other. So what happens is that a lot of work is duplicated, and I think here and there we can use experiences made by others, which will help us to do one or the other shortcut. Because I think at the moment with this very difficult situation schools all over the world are facing, it's so important that we learn from each other and use and enrich each other's knowledge. And I think perhaps after presentation of Tina, we might collect a bit more, because there is also really the wish to do more for Africa.
Great, thank you, Bella, for this clarification. Any other question regarding the WINS network? And if not, maybe I have a general teaser, and maybe that might help the discussion going on, or maybe get some input from you. Cherry presented a number of knowledge products that were produced at the beginning of the pandemic. Those were the knowledge map, the action points, the checklist, the nudges. Those have been shared on different platforms, including the Susanna platforms. They are also now in our website. It could be interesting also for the WINS network to quickly have an overview of who has already seen those documents and whether you have used them in your work in one way or another. It's always the end goal at the end when you produce such knowledge products at global level, to have them actually adapted, tailored to specific countries, and to hear that it is actually being used. So if you want to react to this, please raise your hand. We can do it like this with raise hand. It also works well, and then we can listen to you. So does that mean that no one had seen them before? Or does that mean that everyone has seen them before and used them?
Well, I can say that they have been downloaded more than 10,000 times from the Susanna website already, or looked at more than 10,000 times. So I think that's impressive. But who has seen them? Nobody here in this round, or has and there as well a high number of downloads.
Yeah.
I just start because, of course, I've seen them, but I also know many others in the room who've seen them. It seems that people are a little bit hesitant to raise the voice or to come up and say something about it. Perhaps if people prefer not to raise the hand here, it's just also good if you want to discuss this. Again, also, I think also nice Linda placed the knowledge map in again. And also, I think it's also good to see the 10 action points. That would be very good to use. Duru, you just asked that we place the question again. The question is, there has been material produced to support the safe reopening of schools by the network at the beginning of the pandemic, at the beginning of last year. And this material is to be found on the website, but also on the Susanna website. The 10 immediate action points, for example, just in again. And it's important to know and have discussion, what is your experience with this? And those who have not seen them before, please download again and look at them, because they could very much help to support the movements within countries. And I know countries that really use them on national level. So it just for you to know, that might be very helpful. And it's good to have discussion and listen to more country examples. But I would stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Bella. Actually, now we are placing the link on susanna.org. They are also available on the pages of the WINS network, as Sherry has shared. They are a full tab on resources, and they are the first one that you can see them. I see in the chat box that Anne-Marique has actually seen them and has used them. Sorry, Anne-Marique, you're the only one who actually highlighted this. So if it's okay with you, do you want to unmute yourself and maybe tell us a little bit more about this? Otherwise not. I don't want to put you on the spotlight if you don't want to.
I don't mind to be put on the spotlight, but I don't think I'm the typical user group for this publication, but I've used it as an inspiration for work I was doing and I'm still doing for Southern Africa, because I think it's always good to streamline messages, to see, because I'm sure there's had been a lot of discussion before those 10 points have been put up, and I always think when you set up new strategies or new ideas, it's always good to see what others have done. And and this has been particularly for use in SADC, which is kind of EU for Southern Africa, where we are working on health messages for COVID. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much. Good. If there is no additional input, please don't hesitate to contact us at the WINS network if you want to continue this discussion, even on a one-to-one basis. This is very interesting for us to know what has been done with those documents, or if you have any additional ideas or feedback on those documents, feedback on adaptation. It's something we are really curious to hear about. So please don't hesitate to approach us. Maybe Cherry can put the email address where you can reach her on the chat box. And then
yes,
if there is,
I'll
just put it back on the chat box. Yeah, thanks. And then if there is no more question, then we will move to the second presentation. Then that links with the point of Duru about the plans of working on WINS more in the Africa context. So we are having a presentation from Tina Kanatigoda from GIZ, and she will present to us the Fit for School and Africa initiative. So Tina, the floor is yours. You can share your screen and we listen to you.
Thank you very much, and good morning or good afternoon, everyone, wherever you are. I hope I can be understood clearly, and I'm sharing my presentation now. All right, I hope this is visible and clear to you. I'm happy to introduce a small initiative that we are heading as GIZ, and it's well in line with what has been mentioned before with the global efforts for reopening schools safely, for providing wash-in schools, especially against the backdrop of the pandemic. So I would like to share a few insights of this small initiative and so how it links to the overall wash-in schools and Fit for Schools activities around the globe. It is a funding that GIZ has received by the German government on a short-term basis as an immediate COVID-19 response, sort of notifying that the safe reopening of schools is something that needs to be tackled immediately, that almost 1.5 years have gone by in many countries where schools have been closed or partially closed or have not been operating to the level they need to operate to provide education and social services to children. And the BMZ has awarded us with a fund for an immediate response, looking at PPR and pandemic responses and measures for safely reopening schools with the focus on sub-Saharan African countries. The idea is basically to tap on the wealth of knowledge that is available in the Fit for School approach and fit for school environment, I like to say, but also, of course, to work closely together with global initiatives and platforms and networks such as the Global WINS network. And that's why I also highlighted the very same publications again here. These are not publications by the Fit for School Initiative for Africa, but the initiative is very well aligned with the ideas and the content of these publications and the efforts that are undertaken to make pandemic response in schools feasible for schools that have, and we all know that, limited funding, limited options to shift things around on a short-term basis, but still need to take action mainly by themselves, because we can't wait for sort of government and donors to reach every single school. So we need schools to take action themselves, and we're hoping that jointly with all the other global efforts, we can support them on their way to become safer or safe for reopening. Just as a background, especially for those who might be new or newer to this community, the Fit for School approach basically comes from interventions in Southeast Asia, and that's also why you maybe find a lot of material that is focusing on countries and activities in Southeast Asia. There's a very big regional program on Fit for Schools in 4 East Asian countries that has been working with the government and the education sector in these countries on various aspects of WASH in schools and Fit for School aspects. And I don't want to tap into that in more detail. I think there is a lot of experts here on this call who you can contact if you want to find out more. There's obviously also a lot of material available from the Fit for School website and resources, and most of this is also shared on the Susanna Library. But I'm bringing this up because our idea as a water policy and sustainable sanitation program based at GIZ headquarters is to tap into the wealth of knowledge in the Fit for School context and bring some of the aspects and some of the ideas and some of the learnings and also materials across to African actors and to African education sectors. We have done that before on a smaller scale, and with sort of our role as a sector program on policy advice and agenda setting, we've been able to sort of make colleagues from Southeast Asia with colleagues and teams in other countries. And I've put a few of those on, a few of those are shown on this map. I know there have been others where also Fit for School elements have been featuring in German Development Corporation programs. And obviously, this is now focusing on what GIZ and the German Development Corporation does around Fit for School. There's a much larger community that uses similar tools or the same approaches, especially in the UNICEF context. But beyond that, I've just decided to not go into detail there. And I think if you want to find out more, then again, the WINS network is probably one of the best locations to look for more details. Sorry for that. What are the elements of this Fit for School initiative now? As I said, it's sort of based at headquarters. And now I can't see the presentation.
Yeah, you lost the presentation.
Maybe you have to reshare.
Yeah, I'm resharing. I think someone pressed the button there because it kept on moving around. So let me go back to the presentation. Apologies for that. So the core elements of this Fit for School initiative for Africa are focusing on agenda setting, on global agenda setting, because as a policy advisory team in headquarters, one of our angles is to work with, for example, the German government, but also other international organizations on bringing topics and themes and discussions to global attention. And we will join hands with others there, obviously, but it means that we are not only focusing on interventions in countries, but we're merely focusing also on bringing this higher up and bringing, someone is moving in the presentation, thank you. Bringing this important topic of pandemic preparedness and safe reopening of schools and WASH in schools in general onto the global agenda. The second one, and we're well into that right now in this call here, is the knowledge exchange and learning exchanges, and especially looking at exchanges from south to south. So learnings, to share learnings across continents and across countries, because the challenges, even if the details of the education sector might be different in countries, a lot of the principles are probably the same, and there can be a lot of sharing done and learning done. And not everyone has to reinvent the wheel. And the last bullet here is basically then what we've also talked about earlier, what can happen in countries, what are concrete measures in countries. And there we are partnering with a number of countries and actors to do more in specific countries and also gain learnings there. Because our agenda setting needs to be informed by actual reality and by things that happen on the ground by various actors beyond what German Development Corporation is doing. And we would like to get more involved with you and with your partners and with people you know in the field to better understand what is happening in Sub-Saharan Africa right now and what could be improved, what is needed, and what can be shared with others. Just very briefly, I mean, agenda setting is a big word, but what it mainly entails is aligning ourselves with other initiatives, but also bringing those to attention with people who make with decision makers. And that's in our case, the decision makers would be, for example, the German government. In your case, the decision maker might be someone else, but I think it also makes sense to sort of join hands in the agenda setting and speak one language and communicate the same principles and ideas, and we are able to prepare a bit of material for that can then also be shared by others. The learning and exchanges, and I'm very happy that Cherry already gave you some details there. We're basically also here aligning ourselves with the planned activities by the WINS network. We think this is a very good way of keeping the community together rather than dispersing ourselves on many, many different levels. The closer we work together, the more synergies we can create. And one thing that we can provide is then also documentation and dissemination of that documentation so that even people who are not able to join an event can gain knowledge and take part in the efforts of safely reopening schools. And then lastly, and that's then the sort of the focus on Sub-Saharan African context, we have so far 2 countries where we actually are partnering with projects on the ground. So as a policy advisory team in Eschborn and Frankfurt in Germany, we're certainly not moving into every single country and doing things ourselves. We're partnering with people and organizations who are well established and connected in the countries. And so far, we're looking at South Sudan and Malawi. But there is, of course, the opportunity to also get in closer contact with you and with partners of yours in other countries. And one thing that we are able to do is sort of support the adaptation of available material to local context, which means the Fit for School program has a number of very easy to use and easy to understand simple checklists and assessment tools, but also posters and monitoring tools that might need a little bit of tweaking to be sort of to fit into the national guidelines and to fit into the national context. And we are happy to sort of support that and help you adapt those to be easier to use in your specific contexts. And with that, I'm coming to my last slide and a call for informants. And if you would be willing to share experiences that you have made on the safe reopening of schools and the challenges you're meeting, but also the tools you're using and the sort of progress you've made over the last 16 months, with a focus on Sub-Saharan African countries, but also if it's a very small initiative on a individual school level, that would be extremely interesting for us. And we would be happy to sort of help you bring your learnings to the global discussion and would like to exchange on that. And I think the easiest way for that would be if you just share your contacts or raise your hand or put yourself in the chat and we can get back to you then even after this call. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tina, for this presentation. So if I understand right, this call for informant, it's basically, I mean, of course, any input on this topic, it's also relevant for this meeting. And this is also what we want to discuss at the discussion at the end. But what, if I understood right, you would like to have maybe an interview or to contact those people also afterwards to go even more in details with their learning, what they have done. So in that sense, if there is anyone working in African countries, right, the focus would be for those working in those African countries who would be willing to be contacted afterwards for a deeper interview. Maybe put your name or put your name in the chat box, and then Tina will contact you afterwards. And at the discussion later, if you already want to contribute to those discussion points about what you've done for the Safe School reopening in terms of tools or lessons or challenges, we'll have some half an hour to discuss this with everyone at the end of this meeting. I see Duru has raised his hand again, so it's great to have active participants. Yeah, a few people are responding. Great.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, yeah, Duru, please go ahead.
Okay. Tina, thank you for the wonderful insights you have given to us this morning. I want to thank GIZ for what they are also doing. I've seen a lot of their work in so many other countries. But we in Nigeria, for one, my organization, we are finding it difficult to get organizations to partner with us in terms of establishing WASH facilities in schools. One of our challenges in Nigeria is that most of our schools are not secured. Most of our schools are not secure. They're always open. When I mean not secured, I mean they do not have fence. That is barriers that demarcate the school environment from the communities, and so people from the communities can easily wade into the schools and use their facilities, if not destroy the WASH equipments that have been installed in such schools. And that has been a very big challenge for us, even though what we are trying to do right now is to partner with the state governments in order to see how security parameters can be established in most of these schools, and then we can then go ahead with international partners to put these facilities on ground. But be that as it may, in some of the schools that actually have these parameters on ground that are properly secured, we also find out funding is an issue for us. Funding has been an issue. And when because of what the SDG, the articulation, collaboration, and all that, and we write to so many organizations that we want to partner with them, we share our ideas with them, yet we don't get anybody to say, okay, let us hear what you are doing, or let us see what you are doing, so that we can see how we can put hands together to get these things done. Most of the times you discover that they tell you, we are not interested in working in Nigeria, where our area of jurisdiction is so and so place, is in Asia or in South Africa, but nobody is interested in Nigeria. And then when you are interested in Nigeria, those who are interested in Nigeria, it is only in the north. So a lot of things, a lot of those NGOs who are working to ensure that our schools are adequately equipped in order to provide these services to the children, are not able to get them. And it is a big challenge for us.
I think it's really, thank you for sharing the challenges. And I think it's great to see that you're very eager to share your experience. If you could put your email address in the chat, then our colleagues from GIZ will contact you for more detailed discussion. I think especially now afterwards, what would be nice is to try to focus also on not the challenges. Challenges are important. It's always the starting point when you want to think of what could be solutions, but maybe on tools or what has been done or what you have seen. I think that's often more tricky. But thank you for your input. Please put your email in the chat box and you will be contacted. I'll just like to give the floor to other colleagues who might want to also react to Tina's presentation. So these are, please, if we could keep the discussion points for after the next presentation. Now I would like to ask you to, if you have specific question to the presentation of Tina. I see Gladys from GIZ has a raised hand. Do you want to unmute yourself maybe and ask your question?
Well, thank you. Mine wasn't really a question. It was just some sharing on what has been done by the Sanitation for Millions global.
Shall we keep this for afterwards?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And I see also Fidel. Sorry, I cannot hear you, Fidel. Okay. Then let us move to keep time. Let us move. You could always intervene afterwards in the discussion point. So I'd like to move to the final presentation for this working group session of today. Now it will be a presentation of the HBCC on support for safe reopening from Marge Lim. So Marge, I invite you to share your screen, open. Yeah, the floor is yours. Go ahead. Thank you.
Marge, we cannot hear you.
I think you're still muted, Marge.
Yes, hi everyone. Sorry, I'm having problem with screen sharing. Would it be okay if I request for your support on this part? But I hope you can hear me well now.
Maybe Pieta can share the screen because she has compiled all the PowerPoint. So maybe Pieta, can you maybe share your screen then, and Marge will present on your screen.
Yes, thank you, Pieta. And yeah, sorry about that. So hello everyone. I hope you can hear me well. Warm greetings from the Philippines. I am Marge Lim, an advisor for GIZ's Wash in Schools Develop program, and I will be briefly introducing the collaboration between GIZ and the Hygiene and Behavior Change Coalition. I hope you don't mind if I switch my camera back off to conserve the bandwidth, because yeah, just to be sure you can hear my entire presentation. Right, so yeah, this initiative is aimed at providing support to ministries of education on safe school reopening and operations in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. As you can see in this slide, amidst the unprecedented challenges faced by the education sector within the context of the pandemic, it has been recognized that WASH, or water, sanitation, and hygiene, plays a crucial role in the safe return of children to schools. This presents us with an urgent need and a brief window of opportunity to shine a spotlight on WASH in schools, or WINS, and to support schools with crucial adaptations to manage the COVID-19 pandemic. Next slide, please. So among our 3 target countries, namely Indonesia, Cambodia, and the Philippines, at the moment, a number of schools in Indonesia are open, while most are offering distance learning. In Cambodia, there is an ongoing plan to reopen secondary schools when the new academic year opens in October, while on the other hand, public schools in the Philippines are currently on academic break but will be opening the new school year through distance learning modalities as well. So along with the challenges of navigating the remote learning or the distance learning landscape, most schools are also in parallel making preparations to reopen as soon as green light is obtained. And improving WASH in schools is at the center of the Ministries of Education's response to COVID-19, as we can also see in the plethora of guiding documents and recommendations from the global level and in the implementing guidelines and health standards at the country level. However, practical and realistic models for implementing national and global recommendations for pandemic preparedness and response in schools, also including personal and environmental hygiene measures, are not readily available. So this is the challenge that the Ministries of Education are facing. Next slide, please. And this is exactly the scenario which we at GIZ, with support from DMZ and the Hygiene and Behavior Change Coalition, or HBCC, which is composed of the UK government and Unilever, aim to support and help address. Yeah, by the way, I'm getting some bad network quality notification. Please feel free to cut me off and notify me if line gets choppy. So yeah, moving back to the presentation, we start off with the development of management support tools, which translate the wealth of global recommendations and national implementing guidelines on pandemic preparedness and response into actionable formats for school level actors. And if we could just briefly move into the next slide, please, Yata. So we could, yes, there you go, thank you. If here we zoom in a bit further into this management support tools. And as you can see, this come in the form of checklists for specific locations in schools where the actions are expected to take place. That's one on the farther right side is an example. It's in a checklist for the school entrance. There's also a checklist for classrooms and toilet facilities. And these checklists are provide a succinct summary of the essential pandemic preparedness and response measures to comply with on a regular basis, and prompt the assignment of specific dedicated persons responsible to execute and oversee these tasks. Along with these, there are also posters on proper cleaning procedures to ensure systematic and comprehensive cleaning beyond sanitation facilities. And there are also nudges and materials targeting providing information to our learners on wearing masks, maintaining space, and so on. These management support tools have been distributed to a select number of schools in Indonesia and have been locally adapted and translated for distribution in Cambodia and the Philippines once school reopens. If we could move back, if we move 2 slides back, Yata, one more, there you go, thank you. Now moving back to this slide, the initial interventions will focus on immediate, to the next slide, please, with the diagram. There you go, thank you. Yes, sorry, one more back, the one with the diagram, the program summary. So that slide shows that we will focus on initially on immediate action to limit and prevent the spread of COVID-19 in model schools. And we have a dedicated team working closely and interfacing directly with the model schools to gather feedback on what works well, what the challenges are, and what could be further improved. Basically, these interventions are only the starting point, as they will later on inform processes and procedures which can be proposed for integration in the education sector to give direction for all schools nationwide to provide safe spaces for students and staff, and to capacitate them for future pandemics. So after developing and testing interventions in these selected schools, suitable measures can then be identified, or the package can be further refined. Results and insights gained will also support the development of templates and training materials like orientation videos and a massive open online course that will support the education system in the nationwide scale-up and also guide implementation in the region. Knowledge management and the sharing of tools, learnings, and insights on relevant platforms will also be organized to benefit other schools and concerned institutions. So all of these efforts are geared towards helping build the confidence of schools to reopen to the school community, and to help ensure compliance with the most essential pandemic preparedness and response measures. So I hope this diagram right here is able to help provide a glimpse of the overall program that aim to drive the mainstreaming of important interventions that aim to support individual and institutional behavior change in support of the recovering education sector. Next slide, please. But skipping the previous, the slide that, yeah, and then one, there you go. So yeah, in the interest of time, I'll now be zooming into the implementation in Indonesia. So here are some photos from Batubara district in Indonesia, where 4 pilot schools have been established as model schools for implementation of pandemic preparedness and response. At least 20 more schools have been selected in the same area to take part in the modeling phase. And the initial schools, the pilot schools, now serve as force multipliers, as they have been proactively, they're now at the forefront and proactively guiding the remaining schools in their implementation. They have set up a digital community of practice where other schools air their questions or seek guidance, and where the pilot schools share their experiences and tips. Representatives from the pilot schools have also been invited to participate in virtual speaking engagements to share best practices from their safe school reopening initiatives to a national audience. Another batch of model schools are also being prepared in a different region to really beef up the insights and results that will be gathered and shared in suitable knowledge platforms to inform the rest of the schools in the country that will reopen at a later point in time. So the Ministry of Education in Indonesia is also endorsing the distribution and use of the management support tools, the materials from earlier, in at least 445 schools across 68 districts in the country. Each of these 445 schools have also been also received instructions to transfer their knowledge and experiences to at least another 10 schools within their district to facilitate learning exchange and further disseminate information. Other WINS and HBTC partners in the country, namely UNICEF and SNV, are also on board and keen to explore the possibility of supporting the distribution of this material in their respective program areas. So currently, the team is also laying the groundwork for the development of the design and structure of the MOOC, or the Massive Open Online Course, for rollout to all schools across Indonesia. There are ongoing discussions with the ministry and the schools to identify the challenges they are encountering. For example, increasing the number of participation in the school readiness assessment, which could be addressed and further clarified through the MOOC. So the same concept is also envisaged in Cambodia and the Philippines once school reopens. And with that, next slide, please. I end this presentation with I'm not sure if it didn't move to my end, but yeah, I end this presentation with this photo right here, which I believe is the shared vision we're all working towards. We remain optimistic that through the concerted efforts of all parties working on safe school reopening, this will be a reality in each and every school across the globe very, very soon. So yeah, thank you very much. And I'm happy to address any questions in relation to the presentation. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Marsh, for your presentation. I think it's great to hear practical example of management tool support, and also the focus on scalability and integration into existing systems, and the need for capacity development in case you want to scale those kind of initiatives. So this is great. It's always an important element on all our work, not to just do something at one school and be very small scale, but always look at how it can be integrating an existing system. And I think this was a good aspect of your presentation. This opens nicely also to the discussion point we wanted to have in this working group. But before we move to this, I would like to give a few minutes for questions. So not for the discussion point, let's keep this for afterwards. I will reset the floor for the discussion. But are there any specific questions to the presentation of Marge before we move to the discussion? Okay. There is one question about, can you say a bit more about the challenge from Lynn? And that government doesn't trust global global guidance question. Yeah. It's in the chat box.
Ah, yes. All right. Yes, I can see it. Thank you. Well, yes, about the challenge, as the project involves testing and modeling the interventions in an actual school setting, the main challenge is really around the uncertainty in the timing and the potential areas of school reopening. But in the meantime, while awaiting that, the team is keeping an open line of communication with the ministries of education to know the latest information, identify the support they need, and assess if there's a need to shift gears. So we're also making the most out of digital learning management platforms to communicate pandemic preparedness and response related messages at mass scale. And for example, in the Philippines, there's a video production aimed at providing information to learners, since distance learning modality, remote learning is the being employed here. Videos on the national TV are owned by the Ministry of Education, are being developed in order to show them pandemic preparedness and response measures at home, and also a glimpse of the changes that they would expect when they return to schools. And on the question, I'm sorry if I created an impression that the government doesn't trust the global guidelines. No, in fact, we've seen how they, when they develop their own national policies, they really refer to global recommendations and align as much as possible. There are just some changes that need to be done, perhaps for cultural sensitivity and also to be contextually applicable, but we really refer to global guidelines in the development of policy. So I hope that has addressed the question, but yeah, happy to provide further information.
Thank you, Madge. Any other questions for Madge? Okay, if not, then I mean, it's a good transition anyway to the discussion, so we can some points that have been raised in the presentation might come back in the discussion anyway. So we still have 25 minutes now to get your views on the different topics. So today we are focusing on safe reopening of schools. We have put some teaser, or we have already some questions that we'd like to discuss, and we had put it in an email. We would like to focus the discussion on your views, your experience on different tools or processes that have proven to be successful. So, for example, now we had some specific case presented by Madge of what has been done in the Indonesia, Cambodia. So if you have any other example of such tools, that would be great. Also, reflection on what type of collaboration have you seen in the different countries to ensure safe reopening of schools. So this is particularly referring to collaboration between the education sector and the health sector. So ideally, we'd like not to go back to the challenge and why safe reopening of school it's important. This is very clear. If you want to raise some challenge in implementing some specific tools, that's interesting, but let's try to focus the discussion on possible solutions, tools, process, collaboration, challenges in implementing those, because we only have 25 minutes. But before I open the floor for the discussion, we'd like to ask Bella. Bella, if you want to set the scene even more or add something before we open the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Lucy, and thank you for all the presentations so far. I think thank you what you highlight where we should look at. I think let's all face the situation. Perhaps it might look that the situation in the Philippines or Indonesia or in Cambodia is so good. No, it's not. It's very, very difficult. Schools are closed since in the Philippines since 1.5 years. So it's really the situation, what can be done to support ministries of education in becoming more confident in opening schools, and the entire movement, which is also done by UNICEF, UNESCO, and the World Bank, really into the direction recover education. I think that needs support from all of us. So I'm happy to see, specifically as Lucy said, look into what are the things you can contribute, and perhaps also express clearly where you see the need, specific need to say this would be great to have, or what kind of areas would be of high importance to exchange experience and bring in good examples. I think that is very, very important. Okay. Yes, please come up with questions, and we look forward, Lucy, if you take that over, but it's really about focusing on getting schools open, because the advancements in over years, global development in education, in gender, in girls' participation, that has all to do with opening of schools, with open schools, with feeding, with a lot of other areas. They're all at stake at the moment. So please, what can the Wash in Schools network contribute to the safe reopening? And your knowledge and your experience is very much in need, and please share what you have to share.
Thanks. Bella. Great. So basically, let's maybe structure a little bit the question. If we could start by any good practice, any tools that you've seen to support school in safe reopening. If you have photos to share or videos, that will be great. I see Duro is raising his hand, but I would like to also give the chance maybe for others to participate. So Gurul, I've seen you, I will wait for the others first, if anyone wants to intervene. In the chat box, there were some examples about, there was a mention of supporting the government in Ghana in collaboration with UNICEF. I think that was from, I can't see, was it Annemiek? Then Anne-Marik also mentioned this. Maybe you want to say a word on this?
Sorry. Yeah, I think I'm not in a position to say something about it. I just mentioned that I could introduce you to the people who would be able to say more about it. Yeah, so I'm a little bit too remote from what's happening there at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Great. Thank you. We have someone from Zambia who is also saying that the schools in Zambia are expected to reopen on Monday next week. Do you have any insight on what has been put in place then so that it's possible to reopen the schools? This is Sonile. Okay, otherwise I see that Thomas from GIZ is also raising his hand.
Yes, thank you so much. This is Thomas from Malawi Basic Education Program under GIZ. I just want to share with you in terms of what we did as a country in Malawi in preparation for the safe reopening of the schools. So when schools were closed due to the surging numbers of COVID-19 cases, the ministry had developed some protocols in terms of assessing the readiness of the schools, in terms of the hand washing facilities, the availability of water, the learning space, and they came up with a solution, a plan where the government and the other development partners had provided some buckets to the schools. And in terms of the learning space, looking at especially the early grades, you had a good number of learners in one class. So the government put, through means of education, had actually designed the way education is provided by ensuring that there was like a shifting mode of provision of lessons. So this was in relation to decongesting the classes. So if a class maybe had over 100 learners, so it was maybe divided into two, to say maybe 50 learners in one class, and these will be coming maybe only during the morning, and the other will be coming during the afternoon. And then thereafter, they also changed it to have a shift where some classes, especially the infant classes, were coming on certain days in a week. And this really helped because there was some decongestion in terms of the classes, and some NGOs and some other development partners also supported the schools by providing tents and temporary learning shelters, which were constructed just to support the decongestion of the classes. And really this helped, and now our term has come to an end. It have just closed the terms on 23rd, and now the government also be assessing the impact of whatever measures were put in place before we reopen on 30th August. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Thomas. So you mentioned about school assessment before reopening the school. You mentioned about a school package. You also mentioned about putting in place a shift to ensure social distancing. Maybe one specific question on this school assessment. Do you know what specifically is being looked at? Is it focused on WASH, or is it a checklist that is used by all schools, or has it been mainstreamed to all schools? Or are you mentioning now a specific initiative in some specific area?
Basically, this was a checklist which was sent to all the schools, primary schools and secondary schools, and also universities and colleges, to check the levels of preparedness before the schools were opened. So some of the schools that did not meet the criteria for the opening of the schools, they were somehow supported. For example, in a school where there was no potable water, for example, there's no borehole or there's no tap, some of the development partners came in swiftly and drilled some boreholes so that the water is available. So this was done prior to the reopening of the schools, but this was like something that was done in all the schools. So the Ministry of Education did this to all the schools, not just particular to specific schools, but all the schools. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Thomas, for this clarification. I think this is really interesting information for our colleagues from GIZ for the Fit for School Africa. Great. Any other colleagues who want to share their experience in this same direction? What has been done in your specific countries?
Yeah, perhaps I would just like to invite perhaps people. I mean, we also have the groups here around who are for the Happy Taps, for example. Just promote, perhaps put in some slides for those who are interested, because Happy Tap can be just installed like the Wash a Lot. Of course, we as GIZ always promote the Wash a Lot, but I think Happy Tap is also an excellent possibility to immediately increase immediately the hand washing facilities at school. And I think you are available in most African countries, right? I think perhaps you briefly say something. I think we have guys from Happy Tap in the call here, and put perhaps a link into the chat box, because I think that could be interesting for other partners here, because improving hand washing facilities is of utmost importance. And there is an easy solution at hand, which you can just order and place it there at an affordable price. So please put it in. It might be helpful for other participants in the call. Thanks.
Thank you, Bella. I see Geoff from HappyTap. Do you want to react or put a link or share a photo if you have it just at hand? Maybe it's nice to share your screen and share a photo. Otherwise.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Bella. Appreciate that. This is Jeff from HappyTap, and I see Lynn just shared the link to a website, but I can share an image if that works, which is, you know, and as far as experience, the question was coming up about some experiences, and I'm happy to share that we've been working, as Bella mentioned, in quite a few different locations, first in Southeast Asia, but have expanded a lot to now Africa and Pacific and South Asia, and also some developed countries where, incidentally, in many places in the US, the UK, Europe, hand washing facilities aren't as accessible as they really ought to be with, you know, with what we see from pandemic. Our experience has been that, for example, in Kenya, we've been working in healthcare facilities and quite a few places in schools. We see that the awareness of hand washing has really increased, you know, and people's desire has increased because of coronavirus. But a factor that we see as important, and I think there's some good evidence to support it, that convenient access, you know, be it to a group hand washing facility such as Wash a Lot, or to a smaller unit such as HappyTap, that we're trying to push the idea, let's say, a mindset shift. And I think that's one of the most important things that we can do as a group in the WINS network, is to really, from a high level, say what we've been doing before is fully insufficient, and we have huge opportunities not just to protect ourselves from future pandemics, but from all the diseases associated with inadequate wash. If we seize this moment to enact durable structural changes, in terms of course, access and monitoring and maintenance and promotion, all the things that we've been discussing in this call. So I'm excited to hear the things in the presentations that have come up today, and so excited that WINS network is active and spreading maybe more into Africa, because these are the right messages. And I do hope they resonate with people outside the wash sector. And I think that's one of the key things we can take advantage of, you know, in the current, in light of the current situation, is that more than before, people in education, people in Ministry of Health are really thinking about ways to durably improve hand washing. And so anyway, HappyTap, definitely check our website if you like, happytap.net, where we're trying to advocate something, the new normal, and convince people across sectors that, Okay.
Can just place, I think it's great that you say this. I think no need for a long explanation. It would be just great to put the link into the chat so people can do it by themselves. It's important. This is easy. You can just place it, and you have hand washing facilities which are not using a lot of supply and not of water. And I think there is the question of Anna Marika, is there research done? Yes, there is. There are also manuals available on different hand washing facilities. And I think we could also place this again here. I think there is one which was published some time ago, different hand washing facilities. Exactly. And there's also this one on group hand washing facilities. So there are really available material on hand washing facilities, and I think they're more relevant than ever. Sorry, Jeff, I'm not, I didn't want to be rude, but I think it's also good, just place the link there and then we can move on. I think we all know it's so important to have it, and the change in thinking of getting away with big and infrastructure all the time and heavy infrastructure. The interesting thing is a new way of thinking, of having portable, light and movable and hand washing facilities which do not request for big infrastructure. So that's the thing here. Okay, that's all. Great. I think.
Thank you. Maybe to add to this, in the knowledge map that was developed for COVID-19, and it is also digitally available on the WINS network, there are a number of examples of such good practices. And indeed, I think there is a kind of a compendium for hand washing facilities available on the Cherry, if you find the link, you mute the people who are not muted. Cherry, if you could share the link, maybe to the knowledge map on the chat, that would be great. Great.
Yes.
Going back to the discussion, yeah, Geoff, there is a question for you specifically on the price. Maybe you can answer it in the chat box. Thank you. Great. Is there anyone else who wants to share experience on different tools or good practices or promote what they've been doing to help safe reopening of schools? Otherwise, we could also open to the next question that we had sent in the teaser, which were the form of coordination in place in your country or in your region, or maybe your views on what else would be needed to ensure that those schools reopen safely. I mean, as Bella mentioned, and also as Madge mentioned in her presentation, there are still quite a number of countries, too many countries who have not yet reopened, where schools are still closed, despite the fact that there are some lessons, some good practices being done somewhere else. So what is the biggest bottleneck for those countries not to reopen schools? What would be your views on this? What's your opinion? 2 questions here. You can choose the one you would like to participate. Okay, Duru, I give you back the word. Please keep it short.
Okay, mine is not an answer to the question. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I only want to share the experience in my country. So before school reopened, the Federal Ministry of Health and the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria did make a pronouncement that by setting up a protocol through the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, that every school, before they reopen, both public and private schools owned by government and individuals, must ensure that they have hand washing facilities available at strategic places within the school environment, and that students, the pupils, before returning to school, must also ensure that they also have they wear nose mask, so that they for safety while in the school. So these are some of the things that the government put in place, and which was complied with by all schools across the Federation of Nigeria. But sadly, to note that after some months, like 2021, that some of these schools decided to do away with these hand washing guidelines that were given by the government. And right now, schools have closed to reopen by September. So we are pushing, hopefully, to ensure that the government, with the emergence of the different strain of the COVID-19 now, the government is also trying again to reinforce what it did initially in 2021. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Duru. It's great to hear that there are some commitments at the government level and the emphasis on hand washing and face and social distancing. Thank you for sharing this experience. I see that Bella has a raised hand. Anyway, we are 4 minutes before the end. So maybe I now invite Bella to maybe respond and maybe do some closing remarks. Bella?
Yeah, thank you, Lucy. And also thanks, Duru and others, just to put this in place, sort of all the requirements which are now officially there, or let's say implementing guidelines for the safe reopening of schools, are not really something totally new. They are, if you look at it, there have been, these would be basic requirements which the network or the global WINS movement and all practitioners active in WASH in schools have been asking for years. It's nothing very COVID or pandemic specific. These are requirements which all schools are supposed to have. Access to hand washing facilities, access to clean toilets. I mean, these are aspects which should always have been there. But the current pandemic situation offers a really new situation, a really new movement and urgency to implement that really. And we have to make sure that this happens and this happens in a sustainable way. So I think all of us should use this movement and should see to align and the most active partner at the moment in most countries is UNICEF. I think it's very important to align with them, for all of us to see what is UNICEF doing in your respective country in the area of WASH in schools. They're the biggest player in WASH in schools. Important to align with them so that we also all support the government in the same direction, and that we do not look that everybody does their own, but very much try to align and move into the same direction so that we can see where are the, let's say, strengths of some organizations that can be very good in implementing certain aspects, and that could be of a model for, let's say, also other partners in the landscape to take that on board. And be very, very keen and happy also to hear from Malawi that there are excellent examples in the direction of checklists. I mean, this entire system of checklists which countries currently do to check are the schools ready for opening are basically the same what a regular WASH monitoring, WASH in schools monitoring the status of WASH in schools is trying to do since years, and what the global assessment on WASH in schools is currently done or is done since years, looking at the JMP WASH in schools indicators. This is very much in the same direction. It all comes with another urgency and will give the movement of WASH in schools a huge push. So with this, I think I'm very happy and thankful for your participation, your inputs, and we're very happy to continue. And I think it would be great continue also communication via the WINS network. And we will always see to play also information from the WINS network again over the Susanna Working Group 7. So perhaps also to see the collaboration or you can see the interlinkage between the Working Group 7, which reach out far more into the water and sanitation direction of the global network of water and sanitation, while the WINS network comes a bit more from the hygiene part. So I think it's very nice this comes together, and we will also, as you see now, we are currently also bringing the learnings from the WINS network or what's going on in the WINS network into the Working Group 7 and the Susanna network. And I thank very much for the participation, and also Lucy for her excellent moderation. And with that, I give back to Lucy.
Okay, thank you very much, Bella. Thank you for everyone for your participation. Maybe to close the session, we could all put on the camera. Let's hope that the bandwidth will will work with, and then we can just wave each other goodbye. And at least we see some faces. Maybe next time the meeting will be in person, so we can recognize each other. Thank you, everyone. And then we'll keep in touch. Go and explore the WINS Network website, and don't hesitate to contact all of us and the presenters if you have further questions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Apologies for the cat. Bye bye, everyone.